Due to concerns over the spreading of COVID-19, all K-12 schools in Utah have been closed since March 13th. Now, 5 months later, the Washington County School District will reopen its schools, except they will be requiring the state mandate of wearing masks.
We're following the governor's mandate. That means masks will be required in our buildings, and we'll move forward with that as our game plan.
The executive order doesn't come without strife among school board members, parents, teachers, and others who still have concerns on both sides.
It's a very divisive topic. It's a very divisive challenge that we have to try to work through.
There are folks that are very, very afraid of the virus. Even to the extent that you're the dumbest human beings that ever lived if you think you can open school safely. Okay? On the other side are those who passionately want kids to go to school with no masks, to do it as normally as possible. And we're the dumbest human beings that ever lived if we don't open school that way. We have no chance of making everybody happy.
School district officials believe this plan takes all under consideration, including teachers.
We know we have individuals that are compromised with health conditions that put them at extremely high risk. Sometimes it might be a spouse of a teacher. We just don't know what those are. Some students are highly at risk as a result of this.
Under the reopening plan, each child will be supplied with 2 masks by the school district. Some parents are concerned over how they will enforce the mask wearing and keep them clean.
The second they're doing this, it's trash. And I know that they're not going to be supplied with 100 masks a day, and I realistically don't think they're going to be as amazing as they're wanting to be. It's not going to happen.
I want to know who is going to be held accountable for these children who get sick from illnesses directly related to dirty masks.
Parents with special needs children are especially concerned over the wearing of masks.
So I feel like homeschooling is not an option, but with his anxiety, like, this is going to be a nightmare.
The shields are nice. That's why I have my daughter wear one. I wear one at work. I'm a beautician. So I want people to know what I'm saying, not only with my words, but with my face.
It's actually in the governor's executive order, uses them interchangeably and says that face shields can be used.
If you read on the cdc.gov, if you Google CDC face shields, it will tell you that face shields are not acceptable for preventing COVID. They do not stop droplets in the air. They do not stop the splashing of, germs and things like that.
Because this is a pandemic and considered a public health risk, the mandate by the governor is legal under Utah code. However, it doesn't allow the school district much flexibility in what is required, but it does allow for medical exemptions.
The point is we will be fully supportive of the exemptions for those students that fall into that category, with the understanding that if a child is showing any symptoms of being ill at all, the parent will keep them home.
But there are still those who don't believe the mandate is constitutional.
I would like to challenge the constitutionality of the mask mandate.
The mandate coming from the governor is the law. It has the exact same force as law. It is the law.
Under the plan, students will also be given time to take off their masks at certain times throughout the day. But the concerns go deeper than masks, as teachers are worried about going back to school for health reasons.
There are teachers at my school who are in chemotherapy fighting cancer. There are several that are pregnant. There are several taking care of their elderly parents. There are many that have children that are compromised.
We have a lot of teachers that are choosing to retire early this year because they're concerned about affecting their own health or the health of a loved one in their home. And we have a lot of teachers that are still concerned about coming back to school because of this virus and the unknowns behind it. And they're willing to come back, and it's really not a big thing to wear a mask.
Most agree that face-to-face learning is the best way for kids to learn, but the documentations of the virus spreading from children to adults is so far considered low.
Kids are tolerating it very well. They're not passing it on to their parents. They're not passing it on to their teachers.
There are medical experts that were talking about it today from California and New York and Florida, and they're like, there's no instances where the children are passing it on to adults. So children do not need to wear masks. And my children will not be wearing masks and will be going to school. I have to work.
But let the kids not have to wear a mask. If they're so concerned about your health and the teachers want to wear a mask, then let them wear a mask.
I agree with your evaluation that having them back in school is better than not having them in school, and that the risk of this virus is not greater than having kids back in school. But I disagree with your evaluation that having them back in school, the risk of the virus is so great that we need to put masks on them.
The kids that do get corona are like less than 0.1% going to the hospital. So I just feel like if we're looking at this from like a scientific standpoint, if we're actually listening to the President of the United States, he's suggesting that we get back to normal.
You know, what options are there for children and parents that don't want to have their kids wear masks to school?
And if a student or teacher tests positive for COVID-19, the plan is to do contract tracing, quarantining or isolating those exposed or infected.
It might be that we just isolate a classroom. A little easier, again, in an elementary with one teacher and say, this classroom is isolated. They won't interact at lunch, they won't interact at recess, and we keep them contained.
I'm worried about the mental stigma that my kids would come home with, knowing that they were in a classroom where a teacher was infected and that they were the isolated kids.
And under Utah Senate Bill 3007, the school was given immunity from lawsuits pertaining to COVID-19.
And believe me, I've had family members that have had it, and you don't want it. Not in a million years do you want it.
If the virus counts continue to go up or the mandates can't be followed, schools may end up with some kind of blended learning or combination of in-school and virtual learning from home.
I can teach procedures, and I can teach them how to wear their mask, and I can teach them when to take it off and go outside and run around and how to social distance. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to be back teaching. Online teaching really was difficult for me.
That's why we're so adamant that we want in-school learning, face-to-face learning, because being at home is not good for anybody. These children need the social interaction of being with their peers, being with their teacher, being in their school where they can have a semblance of some of what they're used to.
After public testimony was taken in person and online, the Washington County School Board of Trustees voted unanimously to uphold the plan. It also requires schools and playground equipment to be disinfected daily. Friday will be a short day for all students to give more time for disinfecting and sanitizing. In the meantime, Dunham suggests parents begin to get their children used to wearing a mask.
The children will emulate what they're seeing at home. And if it's a positive experience, if it's not that big a deal, then it won't be that big a deal when they get to school, and our teachers can help a lot.
The second that we can relax the mandate, we can find exceptions, we can get kids out of masks, it will happen.
In Washington County, Melissa Anderson, Community Education News.